Start first by introducing myself. My name is Davis Bates. I'm a singer, a storyteller, and I'm going to do both. But my mom taught me that introductions are a two-way street. I want to know who everybody is, but to save some time, on the count of three, I forgot to put my hearing aids in again this morning. I'm at 1 out of 4 for the last 4 days. So nice and loud so I can hear you, just say your name. Ready, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, we got to do that again. 1, 2, 3. Nice to meet you. Now, I may not remember all those names. That's a lot to learn once. If you have to remind me later, don't take it personally. Now that we know each other, though, I can give you some songs and stories. This song is, I am absolutely positive, the first sea song I ever heard. It's a whaling song that my dad learned off of Burl Ives' record. And he used to sing it at bedtime. And he told me it was one of the first ones he sang. I'm going to teach you the chorus. This is folk music. These are all work songs. There is no such thing as a wrong note. Somebody may have told you, like they told my mom when she was young, one of her teachers, I don't know why she said this, she told my mom she did not have a good singing voice, which is the worst thing you can say to anybody. My mom had a great singing voice. I may be biased, but I thought it was wonderful. So, you all have the best singing voices I have never heard. All right? So don't be shy. I'm going to teach you the chorus, even if you know it, because it's kind of my job. I'll sing a line. We all sing a line together. Blow ye winds in the morning. Try that part. Blow ye winds in the morning. The next line goes, blow ye winds hi-ho. Try it. Blow ye winds hi-ho. The next line goes, clear away a running gear. Try that. Clear away a running gear. And blow winds blow. And blow winds blow. Good. Now we'll sing it straight through. I'll do the verses because I know them. It's only fair. If you know the verses, you can sing them with me. Even if you don't know the same words, it won't bother me at all because I got a sound system. All right. Let's chorus. Here we go. Blow ye winds in the morning and blow ye winds hi-ho. Clear away a running gear and blow winds blow. 'Tis advertised in Boston, New York, and Buffalo. 500 brave Americans a whaling for to go, singing, blow ye winds in the morning, blow ye winds hi-ho. Clear away a running gear and blow winds blow. They'll send you to New Bedford, a famous whaling port, and send you to some land sharks to board and fit you out singing, blow ye winds in the morning, blow ye winds hi-ho. Clear away a running gear and blow winds blow. And now we're out to sea, my boys, the winds begin to blow. One half the watch is sick on deck, the other half below, singing, blow ye winds in the morning and blow ye winds hi-ho. Clear away a running gear and blow winds blow. The captain's on the quarterdeck a-squinting at the sails, when up aloft the lookout spots a mighty school of whales singing, blow ye winds in the morning and blow ye winds hi-ho. Clear away a running gear and blow winds blow. So it's over with the boats, me boys, and after him we'll travel. But if you get too near his flukes, he'll kick you to the devil singing, blow ye winds in the morning and blow ye winds hi-ho. Clear away a running gear and blow winds blow. And now we're back from sea, my boys, and done with all our sailing. A brimming glass around will pass, and damn this blubber whaling singing. Last time, blow ye winds in the morning and blow ye winds hi-ho. Clear away a running gear and blow winds blow. Thank you. Now, as you can tell, we had a tradition of rowdy bedtime songs in my family. Yeah, that they would start fast and then they get slower and slower and slower, and hopefully our eyelids would droop when we go to sleep. Now, that originally was a sea shanty, but you would not sing it that fast when you were hauling up sails, you know? And then people liked it so much that, as is implied at the end, when they got back from going whaling, they would be singing in a tavern, and they would start singing that song. As I grew up going to the Cape when I was a kid. My mom would pick us up on the last day of school with the car all packed. And we would drive to Barnstable Harbor, where my grandparents had bought an old converted boathouse, a cottage, in 1942 for $450. Yeah, real estate prices have gone up a little bit since then. And when they bought it, it had no running water, no electricity. They used kerosene lanterns. They got water from a spring with a bucket. When I was a kid, it had running water by then, and electricity, but no hot water. You also had an outhouse. So I learned very quickly how to deal with an outhouse, which I'm very grateful for. But I don't know if you were ever told when you were a kid and you were in the salt water that you should shower as quickly as possible after getting out of the salt water. We were told that our skin would get itchy if we didn't shower, if we let the salt dry on us. But my grandfather, he actually liked the feeling of salt on his skin. So we might go swimming 3 or 4 times a day, right? My grandfather would not shower until it was time to go to bed because he liked the way the salt felt on him. We liked the way the salt tasted on him. You know, there would be this white powder on his arms from the salt drying, and he'd pick up a kid, right? And we would immediately start licking his arm because he tasted so good. He tasted like salt. And even though it was cold water, no hot water, us kids would race back from the shore after swimming to get a shower. Now, you may wonder, why are we racing back? See, my grandfather was pretty smart about a lot of things, but this was one of them. He did the plumbing, and the pipes came up in the front of the cottage, and then they went right along the side, not underneath, along the side of the western side. So the pipes were in the sun. And then they'd come under the cottage and then to where the shower was. There was about 1.5 gallons of hot water in the pipes waiting for us when we got back. And we would race to get back, and the first one back would get the first shower, a hot shower. And then everybody else would stand around. Usually there were like 9 or 10 of us kids. It was a small cottage, but we liked each other. And we would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the kid who was first, the rule was they had to jump out. And the second kid would jump in, and everybody go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Meanwhile, the water is getting less and less hot. And then the third kid would jump in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By the time he got to the 5th kid, people would stop counting because by then the water was cold. And we knew we were almost grown up when my grandfather took us aside. It started with me because I was the oldest grandchild. It happened when I was 8 years old. That's almost grown up, right? At least most 8-year-olds think so. And he took me aside and he said, it's time to let the younger kids have the hot shower. You can pretend to run, but you have to come in last. And I looked at him and I said, okay, because that's what we did with our grandfather. And so the next time we were running towards the shower, I pretended to run and I came in last, and it was fun. It was fun to pretend to run and let the other kids win, you know? And then the next year, my cousin Elizabeth, she turned 8 years old, and now it was 2 of us pretending to run. And it was even more fun because now I was not alone. And we were laughing, and it was worth a cold shower. One by one, kids got to be 8 years old until my sister was the only kid younger than 8. And there were 9 kids pretending to run. And we were laughing hysterically. And she would get there and she would get the hot shower. We didn't even care who went in second. And then my sister was 8, and my grandfather said to us, it's time to let your grandmother have the hot shower. And then she made him put in a hot water heater. Right, so everybody could have a hot shower. Now, when I first started telling stories, my mom said I started early, but when I first started doing this for a living, I actually lived in a cottage at the Cape. Not the front one, but a back one that was built by a friend of my grandfather's. He got a 99-year lease for $1 from my grandfather to build this cottage. And you didn't have to go get permits in those days. And he built it out of scraps left over from his carpentry business. There was no board in the sheathing of that cottage that was longer than 4 feet. You know, he didn't waste anything after World War II when he was building. And I stayed in that cottage. I learned songs, learned stories. This song, originally it was called Liverpool Girls. But then someone came over from Liverpool to the Cape. And why are they going to sing a song called Liverpool Girls when we're on the Cape? So they changed it to Cape Cod Girls. And they changed the lyrics. This song, unlike the last one where there was a chorus with 4 lines, I sing a line, then we all sing a line together. I sing a line, we all sing a line together. And it's a work song. So I'll teach you the first line. Okay. It goes like this. Cape Cod Girls, heave away, haul away. Heave away, haul away. Try that. Heave away, haul away. Good. Now, and then there's the next line. After I sing a line, it goes, bound for South Australia. Try that. Bound for South Australia. To go around Cape Horn, you get to South Australia. Now, this is a work song. I'm self-employed. I don't make anybody else work, including myself sometimes. But this is a chance where you get to pretend to be working. It's not often you get to do this without getting yelled at. So we're going to give a little oomph as if we're hauling on a line to pull up the sail to go to South Australia. So it'd be like, heave away, haul away. Let's try that. Heave away, haul away. And then again, emphasis on bound and strail. Bound for South Australia. You get it. Now, whenever I raise my arm in the song, we'll sing those lines. First one, then the other. Here's the song. Cape Cod girls don't need no combs. Heave away, haul away. They comb their hair with codfish bones. Bound for South Australia. Cape Cod boys don't need no sleds. Heave away, haul away. They slide down hills on codfish heads. Bound for South Australia. Heave away, me bully, bully boys. Heave away, haul away. Heave away, and don't you make a noise. We're bound for South Australia. Cape Cod mamas don't bake no pies. Heave away, haul away. They feed their children codfish eyes. Bound for South Australia. Cape Cod doctors don't need no pills. Heave away, haul away. They feed their patients codfish gills. Bound for South Australia. Heave away, me bully, bully girls. Heave away, haul away. Heave away, and don't you lose your curls. We're bound for South Australia. Cape Cod cats don't have no tails. Heave away, haul away. They lost them all in the northeast gales. Bound for South Australia. Heave away, me bully, bully folks. Heave away, haul away. Heave away, and don't forget your jokes. We're bound for South Australia. That's it. Now, I also found this story in a book called The Narrow Land about a guy named Moshe. Now, this story happened so long ago, there was only one person living on Cape Cod. Have you been down there recently? There's a few more now. But he was by himself. He was a giant. He was so big, he had a coat made out of 100 bear skins. And in the winter, he lived in the Falmouth area, back before it was Falmouth, where there were a lot of trees, and the trees kept the wind off him. The coat of 100 bearskins kept him warm. He lay down in the snow, rolled himself up in the coat. But then, in the summer, when it gets hot, and you probably know at the Cape it can get pretty hot in the summer, the idea of wearing a coat of 100 bearskins was not fun. So he would take it off and hang it on a tree for when he would come back later in the fall. And he would walk all the way, it didn't take him very long because he was a giant, all the way down to the narrow part of the Cape, Truro, Provincetown. And there the winds would come off the ocean, they come off the bay, depending on which direction, and it would help cool him off, at least while there was a breeze. Some nights, though, I don't know if before air conditioning you were ever trying to sleep when it was really hot. And you're in bed, and you want to have a sheet over yourself because at first the sheet is cooler when you put it on, but then it starts to get warmer, so you take the sheet off, and you're rolling from one side to the other, and maybe if your mom taught you like mine did, you might have a bowl of ice next to you, and you take the piece of ice and you rub it on your forehead or on your wrist right here, or you might have a fan blowing across the bowl of ice, which was early air conditioning, and it would make you cooler. Well, Moshe did not have any ice or any fan. And he'd be in the sand dunes trying to get some sleep. If it was really hot with no breeze, he would just roll to one side and he'd push the sand up. And then he'd roll to the other side, he'd push the sand up. That's why when you go to the Cape and you go to a place where you've been before, the dunes are in a different place, because he's been sleeping there and moving things around. Well, one night it was so hot he got almost no sleep. And he got up and he thought he'd go for a swim. He took a couple steps and realized he was barefoot. His moccasins had come off while he was twisting and turning. So he went back to dig around for him. He found one. He went to put it on. It was full of sand. So he took it by the end. You know, ever done that with a shoe or something? You flick it to get something out of it? Well, he did that with his moccasins. He took it and he flicked it, and the sand went flying out of his moccasin, went way out into the ocean, and landed and formed the island of Nantucket. And he found the other moccasin. It too was full of sand. He flicked it with the other arm. That was not as strong, so the sand didn't go out quite as far, and it landed and formed the island of Martha's Vineyard. And a little bit of sand dribbled towards what's now Woods Hole, and that formed the Elizabeth Islands. And then he put on his moccasins and went for a swim. Now, you may have heard stories about glaciers pushing things around and causing those islands, but you can tell folks who tell you those stories, well, I got another story for you, and tell it to them. I love the way these stories travel. This woman, Elizabeth Renard, used to go in the summers at the Cape. She was a Latin teacher at Barnard College back in the 20s and 30s, and people would tell stories and she'd write them down. And when her friend passed away, her friend left money for Elizabeth to publish the book. Otherwise, those stories might have get lost in a drawer somewhere. This song I learned on the Clearwater. It's got a great chorus, easy to learn. It goes, "We'll roll the old chariot along." Try that part. "We'll roll the old chariot along." And then you sing the same words, just a little bit lower. "We'll roll the old chariot along." Try that. "We'll roll the old chariot along." Then you go back up and sing the same line. "We'll roll the old chariot along." And then the last line is a descending scale. "And we'll all hang on behind." Let's try that, right? "We'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind." Now the verses have the same tune and they're not very complicated, so as you catch on, you can sing the verses with me too. Well, a little bit of wind, this is from sailing days, wouldn't do us any harm. A little bit of wind, it wouldn't do us any harm. A little bit of wind, it wouldn't do us any harm. And we'll all hang on behind. We'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. And I was thinking about this verse last week. Well, a little bit of sun, it wouldn't do us any harm. A little bit of sun, it wouldn't do us any harm. A little bit of sun, it wouldn't do us any harm. And we'll all hang on behind. We'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. And of course, a little bit of rum, it wouldn't do us any harm. A little bit of rum, it wouldn't do us any harm. A little bit of rum, it wouldn't do us any harm. And we'll all hang on behind. We'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. And this song became popular in the War of 1812 on sailing vessels, which is where this verse comes from. And a little bit of peace, it wouldn't do us any harm. A little bit of peace, it wouldn't do us any harm. A little bit of peace, it wouldn't do us any harm. And we'll all hang on behind. Last time, we'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. That's it. Thank you. Yeah, at one time we were on the Clearwater. When you sing these songs, hauling up sails, you do not sing them as fast as I'm singing them. And in case you didn't know that, one night, the captain of the Clearwater, it's a boat that goes up and down the Hudson River, a sloop, one sail, but a big one sail thing. They used to be cargo ships back in sailing days, taking hay from up north or in the farming places near Albany, and then going down to New York City, and they'd unload it for all the horses that were in New York City, and then they'd pick up other cargo and they'd bring it back up north. And so it had a wide deck, and we sang that hauling up the sail while we were trying to get off the dock with the wind coming onto the dock. And people were kind of frustrated with the captain until the wind switched and the rudder got stuck in the mud, and we just pivoted on the rudder, and then the wind took us right off. And it was so quiet. You could just hear the creaking of the wood and of the ropes and the sound of the water along the side. And it's a very different way of being on the water like that. This song, oh, don't worry about making noise. I'm cool. Yeah, that's fine. This song, I learned last year. I'd heard it before, but I'd never learned it. It's one of those warning songs for sailors. Although there are different versions of it that feel like warning songs for women who are on the shore. This is kind of a mix. The chorus goes like this. A-rovin', try that part. A-rovin', since rovin's been my ruin. Since rovin's been my ruin. I'll go no more a-rovin', try that. I'll go no more a-rovin' with you, fair maid, with you, fair maid. Let's sing the chorus all the way through. And originally this was a sea shanty, but it became more popular on the shore than it was on the boats. Let's try the chorus. A-rovin', since rovin's been my ruin. I'll go no more a-rovin' with you, fair maid. In Amsterdam there lived a maid, mark well what I do say. In Amsterdam there lived a maid, and she was mistress of her trade. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. Now the chorus. A-roving, since roving's been my ruin. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. I took this fair maid for a walk, mark well what I do say. I took this fair maid for a walk, and we had such a lovely talk. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, since roving's been my ruin. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. I put my arm around her waist, mark well what I did say. I put my arm around her waist, she said, young man, you're in great haste. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, since roving's been my ruin. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. I put my hand upon her knee, mark well what I do say. I put my hand upon her knee, she said, young man, go back to sea. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. Last time. A-roving, since roving's been my ruin. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. That's it. When I was in high school, I was in the chorus, and we raised money to go on a tour to Europe. It was really fun. But we actually went to Amsterdam, and I learned where that reference to Amsterdam comes from. There was a certain district in Amsterdam where you walk down the streets and you got an education just by looking in the windows. And that's all I'll say about it. And there are versions of that song that get more and more, let us say, PG rated or R rated or even slightly to the other side of that. But that's my favorite version. This song, actually no, I'll tell you a story. A quick story, a ghost story, a sea ghost story. You never know where you're going to find a story. I had friends who were rangers. You think of rangers as being out in these big parks out west. They were rangers on Damascove Island in Maine, off of Booth Bay. Very small island, nice little harbor, and the whole place was owned by the Nature Conservancy, but there were shacks on it, even smaller than the cottage I grew up in, that were owned by lobstermen who were out of Booth Bay and Christmas Cove and other places. So the buildings were owned by these families. And they would actually come out there for vacation in the summer. The wives and the kids and the lobstermen. And they would fish out of there and then bring their lobsters to the mainland and then come back and then sleep there at night. And they'd sometimes stay there the whole summer. Well, it wasn't summer, and I was visiting, so it was just the rangers, my friends Wynn, and oh man, I'm forgetting her husband's name. It'll come back to me. And they said, hey, you're a storyteller, we got a ghost story for you. It happened on that island. Way before those fishing shacks were there was a pirate who lived on that island. Yes. And he was a pirate who would mostly go south to the Caribbean. And then once he had a good bit of money, he would come back and spend the winter there. Well, he was out one time and he had a dog. The dog did not like being on a boat. I had a dog that did not like being on a boat either. A friend was a captain of a boat from Sea Education Association, and we went from Gloucester. I met her in Gloucester, and we went up to Rockport, Maine for the boat to be worked on, and I brought my dog with me, and I said, well, it's a long trip. What should the dog do about going to the bathroom? She said, oh, it's okay. The dog can just pee on the boat. We'll wash it off. Well, you see, my dog had been taught not to pee on wooden floors. The boat was like a giant wooden floor, even though there was no walls. And my dog, it took 16 hours to get up to Rockport because the tide and the wind were against us. My dog was not very happy. And when we got to Rockport and they put down the gangplank, my dog raced off the boat to the nearest tree and stayed there for about 2 minutes. Maybe that's why this dog of the pirate did not like wooden boats. I have no idea. But it stayed behind. And the pirate was coming back from down south, and one of those storms came up that can come up suddenly, and it was trying to get back to the safe harbor, but was having a hard time with the ship. And then there was one of those inversions. I don't know if you ever heard about this, where the wind can totally flip suddenly. And a boat will have its sails up for the wind coming in one direction, and the wind will come from the other direction, and it'll just flip the boat right upside down. And that's what happened to this pirate's boat. Flipped it right upside down. Now, his dog had been running up and down the shore, really excited about the boat getting back, saw the boat flip, and started swimming out to the boat. And the pirate shook his boots off and came up from out, somehow didn't get dragged down by the water, came up and started swimming to shore. And it was a long ways off, like 600 yards off the shore, and they both swam about 300 yards towards each other, and then they met, but by then they were exhausted, both the pirate and the dog, and the pirate held onto the dog. The dog, you know how dogs will do that with you, put their front paws over your shoulder, around your neck? The dog did that, and the two of them just sank below the waves, and they were both lost at sea. Well, my friends told me, and they said this, they'd seen this, that one day a year, the same day both that dog and the pirate drowned, all of a sudden you'll see a man and a dog pop up out of the water right at that same spot and swim to shore, get out of the water, and they walk all around Damrus Cove Island. And they get back in the water and they swim out and disappear. And that's a ghost story from Maine. Isn't that cool? I'm glad you guys could stay for some of it. No, it's okay. You got traveling to do. A couple of you need to go home, which is a good thing, right? Yeah. So I'm glad you could come. Thanks. Yeah, and sorry to make you have to walk in front of me, but don't worry about it. Pretend this is a living room. Yeah. Have a good one. And thanks for your help cleaning up, too. Bye. So you never know where you're going to find a story or a song, right? I didn't go to Damrus Cove Island expecting to come back with a ghost story. And one time I was driving in rush hour traffic near Boston, and I don't know if you ever, I think he's passed away since now, but there was a guy named Dick Pleasance who had this wonderful show on Saturdays. And I was driving, even though you wouldn't think there'd be rush hour traffic on Saturday, it's a different kind of rush as far as I know. There were still a lot of cars, and I was coming home, and this great song came on. It was a really great work song from down in New Orleans for pushing bales of cotton up on the boat, but I couldn't pull over to write it down, you know? So I learned the chorus. It was pretty easy to learn, and I learned the plot of the song, but I had to make up new words. This is a semi-traditional folk song. Work song, as I said, for pushing as opposed to pulling. The chorus goes like this. I'm a rowdy soul, and I don't care whether I work or not. That's it. It's very short. So they would sing it twice, because once through wasn't enough to get tired, and then they'd take a break. Someone usually older, I'm getting to be that, you may have noticed by the color of my beard, would sing a verse to keep them interested, keep the rhythm going, and then they go back to pushing. And they'd push until the bale of cotton was up on the boat. So let's try that. And rowdy souls don't care where they sing so loud that everybody at the cribbage tournament wonders what's going on and forgets what they're doing. All right? All they care about is getting the work done. So let's try that. Oh, and to get an idea, I don't want to make this too complicated, but we're all going to clap on the word not to give us the idea of what it's like to just push on that. All right? So it'll go, I'm a rowdy soul, I'm a rowdy soul, I don't care whether I work or not. Yeah, you got it. Let's try that twice through. I'm a rowdy soul, I'm a rowdy soul, I don't care whether I work or not. I'm a rowdy soul, I'm a rowdy soul, I don't care whether I work or not. Well, I used to have a little farm, but the crops were just too small. The loans, they came up way past due, and the bank, they took it already. I'm a rowdy soul, I'm a rowdy soul, I don't care whether I work or not. I'm a rowdy soul, I'm a rowdy soul, I don't care whether I work or not. Well, I came down to New Orleans and I got a job loading freight. Get paid 10 measly dollars for working 10 hours straight, not much. I'm a rowdy soul, I'm a rowdy soul, I don't care whether I work or not. I'm a rowdy soul, I'm a rowdy soul, I don't care whether I work or not. Well, my boss, he is the meanest man that you ever did see. He'd steal a nickel from a blind man's cup and he'd kick him just for free. He's pretty mean. I'm a rowdy soul, I'm a rowdy soul, I don't care whether I work or not. I'm a rowdy soul, I'm a rowdy soul, I don't care whether I work or not. Well, I couldn't stand that boss, so I quit my job today. Now a 7-day weekend, that's my life, and I don't care what you say last time. I'm a rowdy soul, I'm a rowdy soul, I don't care whether I work or not. I'm a rowdy soul, I'm a rowdy soul, I don't care whether I work or not. That's it. Thanks. Now, you don't have to be loading boats on New Orleans, which I doubt any of us are going to be called to do in the next couple of years, to sing this song. I have sung this song shoveling the driveway. Not that fast and not that loud. Kind of under my breath as I did it. A friend of mine who used to work at Sturbridge Village, lived in Brimfield, taught the song to a neighbor. A young girl, 9 years old, who mowed the lawn for her family. She had one of those push mowers, you know, the ones that don't have a motor on them? The sort of rotary mowers? Yeah. And it wasn't a very big lawn, but she started mowing, and once she learned the chorus, she started singing the chorus as she mowed, like pushing the lawnmower to the beat of the chorus. I'm a rowdy soul. And she liked the chorus, but she decided to make up a new verse. She didn't sing any of the ones I sang. She started to sing this instead. She sang, I hope this grass all dies and I don't have to mow it anymore. I hope this grass all dies and I don't have to mow it anymore. And she told my friend, and my friend told me, she only had to mow that lawn half as often that summer. And whether the lawn was intimidated by the song or it was just a dry summer, I have no idea. But singing can help work go faster. I tend to whistle a lot. And you can take these songs and change them. People did when they worked with them. They weren't written in stone. You know, like the Liverpool song turning into Cape Cod Girls, the Roll the Old Chariot when I was on the Clearwater and we were tossing pumpkins to sell at our pumpkin festival. We sang, we'll roll the old pumpkins along, we'll roll the old pumpkins along, so we could pass them in a rhythm, you know? And you can change these songs. This song is an Irish-American sea shanty. I don't know if you've ever heard of the potato famine in Ireland in the 1800s, 1850s. Started really in 1848, 9, where the blight came and wiped out almost the entire potato crop because they were pretty much growing one variety of potato all across Ireland. And the book I read about it said that the English had been trying to get rid of the Irish from Ireland for a couple hundred years. And then the potato famine came and gave an extra shove. And over the course of the next 10 years, 1.5 million people, more than that, left Ireland. A lot of them come into the United States, some to Canada, some to South America, some to Asia, Africa, but most of them to the United States, Boston, New York, South Carolina, Charleston. And if you had money, you could buy a ticket. Hopefully you didn't get on what was called a death ship, which is where too many tickets had been sold and there wasn't enough room or food for the people on of them, and a lot of them didn't make it all the way over. And there are stories about this, where if you were a lad of 10 to 14 or an enterprising young woman from 10 to 14, there's stories of young girls cutting their hair short and dressing in boys' clothes and getting a job as a cabin boy on a ship coming to America. Then when they get over here, they get to a port and they say, I'm going to go for a little walk, only it wasn't a little walk. It was a long walk and they did not come back. They jump ship. Same thing with sailors. You get hired on a crew coming over to America, and if you wanted to, you might jump ship in New York or Boston. Or if you liked your captain, you would stay on board. So this is an old Yankee sea shanty that got changed into an Irish-American sea shanty. And again, it's one of the ones where I'm going to sing a line, we'll all sing a line together, I'll sing a line, we'll all sing a line together. Lucky for you, the line we sing all together is the same both times. You only have to learn one line. It goes like this. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. Yeah, we're not going to pretend to work too hard on this. We're just going to give an emphasis on Joe. All right, so let's try that. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. You got it. All right, so here's the song. And whenever I raise my arm, we sing that together. When I was a little lad or so, my mother told me, way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. That if I did not kiss with joy, my lips would all grow moldy. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. Once I lived in Ireland a-digging dirt and potatoes. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. Now I'm on a Yankee ship a-hauling sheets and braces. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. Once I knew a Yankee girl, she nearly drove me crazy. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. Now I know an Irish girl, she really drives me crazy. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. King Louis was the king of France before the Revolution. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. But then he got his head cut off, which spoiled his constitution. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. Haul away together. Way haul away, we'll haul away together. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. For better weather. Way haul away, we'll haul for better weather. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. Thank you. Now, there is a long tradition of what you might call multicultural crews on board boats. You might have 5 or 6 languages on a boat. Some also speaking English, some not. But you can work on a boat without knowing each other's language pretty easily. You point, you shout, you know the sails, you get things up. There are a lot of whalers who came out of Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard who were Wampanoag Indians, who were famous for being great harpooners. And as you go around the world, you collect things like, I was telling you about Aunt Mary Sprague and Sally Sprague, whose grandfather was a sea captain on a clipper ship. And he would go all around the world. And some days he'd be gone for as long as 3 years. You go to Asia, you go to Africa doing trading, and he would come home, not just with new cargo, but he would come home with art objects, small objects that he got different places. And this instrument is from Puerto Rico. The Taínos Indians of Puerto Rico grew gourds for a lot of different things, and they'd make scratches on the gourds. Like, when this gourd is really small, it starts with a flower, of course, just like a zucchini, and then it gets really small, about like this, and you can eat it because it's soft. But as it gets bigger, it gets harder and harder and harder. And if it's small and you put like 6 to 8 scratches in the small green guiro, as it's called, gourd, then as it gets bigger, the scratches get bigger and deeper. And when it gets hard, it has those scratches in it. These were made by a machine. And you have a musical instrument. This is an instrument from Africa that someone might have come home with. It's really loud. I didn't realize how loud it was till I got my hearing aids, especially indoors, but you can play it softer. These are wooden beads. Sometimes they have shells around them. And you can play music with them. This story, I'm going to sing a story and then a couple of leave-taking songs. A shanty for raising the sail going home and a shanty for raising the anchor going home. This is a very short story from Scotland about selkies. You ever heard of selkies? Seals change into people and then back again. There's a great movie called The Secret of Roan Inish. Came out a number of years ago. If the library has it, or if they don't, they can get it through interlibrary loan. It's a wonderful movie. This story was collected in a book called The People of the Sea. And there was this couple who had a toddler, and they lived on an island off the coast of Scotland. They had a croft. A croft is basically a small farm. That's the word for it. And they had a building that they lived in made out of stone, 1 story, whitewashed, and half of it was for the animals and half of it was for the people, and there was no wall between the 2 halves. They sort of figured it out as they went along. And there was a roof made out of thatch, and it had ropes crisscrossed across the roof, making diamond shapes, and every rope came down to a rock that was about 1.5 feet apart all the way along the eaves, wrapped around with rope, and it would just hang there, and the weight of the rocks would keep the roof from blowing off in the storms. And the husband, he was a seal killer. He would hunt seals along the shore with a knife. He didn't go out on a boat. And once he'd killed a seal, he'd bring it back over his shoulder. Occasionally, he got 2 seals. He had 2 shoulders. Sometimes he got no seals, and it didn't matter what shoulders he had. And he would come back, and they'd skin the seal, use the skin for clothing and the meat for food. It was a little fishy, but it was okay. And the fat for candles, waterproofing, bones for some tools. They'd bury everything else in the garden because the soil was so bad. And it made it a little bit better. Well, he was off hunting one day, and the wife, she was spreading seaweed on the garden because, again, the soil was bad, so what they do, they were right near the ocean, they had a path going to the ocean and a path going to town. They'd take a really big basket, and they'd bring it down to the shore. It had straps, so you could put it over your shoulders, and they'd collect seaweed, kelp, other seaweeds, and they'd fill the whole basket as much as they could. They'd carry the seaweed up, make a big pile, and they keep the pile getting bigger and bigger, and when the garden had been harvested, they'd put the seaweed on the garden for the winter, turn it under. And that's what she was doing. She was spreading her seaweed, and her toddler was toddling, because that's what toddlers do. It's their main job, you know. Toddle a few steps, fall on your butt. Get up, toddle a few steps, fall on your front. He was so good at falling, he'd laugh every time. He thought it was funny. And then the woman, as she's spreading seaweed, thought, oh, I got to punch down the bread. She was making bread for supper, and it was on its first rise. And she looked at him, and her toddler was having fun, and the yard was like a big playpen. It had a fence going all the way around it, just 2 gates, one going to the shore, one going to town, and there were latches. He'd never unlatched a gate before, so it was safe to leave him outside. She went inside, she punched down the bread, and then she thought, oh, the sheets, I bet they're dry, there's a nice breeze. And she went out to the other side of the croft, and there were the sheets hanging, and she got the sheets down because they were dry, put them in a different basket, brought them inside, and she thought, oh, I may as well make the beds. So she made the beds, and then she thought, oh, the seaweed. She was that kind of woman, you know. And she went out, and there was the seaweed, but she couldn't see her son. So she ran around the whole croft looking, and he was not hiding anywhere. She couldn't see him at all. And she got back and she looked and she saw that the gate that led towards the shore was unlatched and was kind of banging in the breeze. And she ran to the gate, she opened it, and she looked, and there was a little bit of mud, and her son's footprint was in the mud going down towards the shore. So she ran down the path, down to the shore. She got there, and his footprints were on the beach, one after the other, getting closer and closer to the water. And then they were right next to the water, and then the waves were coming up and washing the footprints away, and she could not see her son anywhere. And she dropped right in the sand, right on her knees, and she started to cry. Now, she had always been a good crier. She'd had a lot of practice, and now she had a really good reason to cry. And she cried as hard as she'd ever cried in her life. She cried so hard she needed more air so she could cry again. So she stopped crying to take a big deep breath, and when she did, she wasn't making noise anymore, but she heard an echo of her crying coming from beyond the beach. At the end of the beach, there was a pile of rocks, and she knew that beyond that pile of rocks, there was a small crescent-shaped bit of sand, very small cove. And that's where the crying seemed to come from. So she stood up, tears rolling down her cheeks, walked over to the rocks, climbed up them, got to the top, and she looked down, and there, on that small little moon-shaped bit of sand, was a mother seal and two twin seal pups. And playing with those pups was her son. And she ran down those rocks. She ran to her son. She picked him up. She held him tight, not too tight, but just tight enough to let him know how happy she was to see him. And then she looked down at the mother seal and she said, I don't know how, but thank you ever so much. Thank you. And the mother seal just looked up at her and cocked her head to one side, the way seals do when they're thinking, and gave out a bark, as if to say, you're welcome, no problem. And then the mother seal took one flipper and she slapped one twin into the water. She slapped the other twin into the water, and then she swam out after them, and the mother watched till they were all out of sight and dipped down in the water, and then she took her son home. Up over the rocks, back along the beach, along the path, and when she got back, she closed and latched the gate, and she had a little bit of string in the pocket of her skirt, and she took it out and she wrapped it around the latch and the post and tied it nice and tight. And the two of them finished spreading seaweed. He mostly wore it on his head, but it made the work go faster. And then he went inside, they made supper, and the husband came home. He did not get a seal that day. And when that happened, he would use his knife at dinner because it was clean. So his big hunting knife was right next to his plate. And while they were eating, his wife told him what had happened that day. And when she got to the end of the story, he looked at her, he looked at his son, and he looked at his knife. And he picked up the knife, and he looked at his son one last time, and he pushed his chair back. And he got up, and he went over to the chest of drawers that was over to the side. And he opened up the bottom drawer. That's where they kept everything they never used. You know those drawers, right? And he put the knife in, and he closed the drawer. And he never hunted seals again after that. That's a story from Scotland. So that book is called The People of the Sea, and the cool thing about libraries these days, they have interlibrary loan. So if your library does not have this book, they can find it for you. And it's a great book to read. I went a little over than what I thought I was going to go. So I'm just going to do one parting shanty. Now, as I said, Captain Sprague would be gone for 3 years. They would save this shanty, if they sang it on that boat, for one moment when they raised the anchor to come home. You did not sing it any other time. Only raising the anchor for one last time to get back to New England. And the chorus goes like this. Rolling home, rolling home. Try that part. Rolling home. Next line goes, rolling home across the sea. Rolling home across the sea. Rolling home to old New England. Rolling home to old New England. Rolling home, dear land, to thee. Rolling home, dear land, to thee. Let's sing it straight through. Rolling home, rolling home. Rolling home across the sea. Rolling home to old New England. Rolling home, dear land, to thee. This became such a popular song that they would sing it even when they weren't in the anchor. Now, a capstan shanty, which is what this is, there's a post going down through the boat, kind of like a mast, only instead of going up, it goes down, and it goes into the anchor locker where the chain goes out through a hole in the side and is attached to the anchor. When they let the anchor out, the chain will pay out, and the post will go around and around and around till the anchor hits the bottom. When you raise it up, the post goes up onto deck where there's a bunch of holes through the top. Sometimes there's a bit of leather wrapped around the top, and you put a spar through the holes, and then you push as you raise up the anchor. And so, depending on how far the anchor is out, you might have more verses. They liked this song so much, it became what's called a forecastle shanty. It was sung even in the cabin when they weren't working. The version of this song I found had 126 verses. I'm not going to make you sit through all of them. I did not learn all of them. So we're going to sing 3 verses. Here's the first one. Call all hands to man the capstan, see the cable running clear. Heave away, and with a will, for New England we will steer. Now the chorus. We're rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea. Rolling home to old New England. Rolling home, dear land, to thee. Fare ye well, ye Spanish maidens, it is time to say adieu. Happy times we spent together, happy times we spent with you, but we're rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea, rolling home to old New England, rolling home, dear land, to thee. And each wave we leave behind us seems to murmur as we go. There's a hearty welcome waiting in the land to which you go last time. We're rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea, rolling home to old New England, rolling home, dear land, to thee. Thank you. I want to thank the Council on Aging and the Senior Center for having me again, and a special thanks to the Templeton Cultural Council, who funded my visit. No, wait. Townsend. I did this earlier. I was just in Templeton yesterday. The Townsend Cultural Council, who funded my visit, they do a lot of great things in town. This is just one of them. We're really fortunate that every town gets some money from the state that they get to decide what to do with themselves. And it's volunteers who make it work. So I thank them for doing that. And thank you to you guys for coming, because this would be no fun if you weren't here. You're the best part of this whole thing. Your wonderful voices, your great laughter, your beautiful faces. Thank you for coming. Have a great spring, everybody. Thank you.